I'm Parul Gupta. I'm an editor with Kidstop Press. Today we have with us Aditi Nahata. She's a child nutritionist, and I think I should let her explain better what she does because I'm a
Hi.
little.
Hi. So thank you, Parul, for having me here today. As Parul said, my name is Aditi Nahata. I'm a child nutritionist. So my job is to work with families, to help them confidently nourish their children. I'm also a mother to a 5-year-old boy who is a picky eater. So I have, a real life experience in everything that I'm talking about. And me primarily, what I strongly believe in is that what you feed your children is as important as how you feed your children. So I really try to help parents develop a healthy relationship, help their children develop a healthy relationship with food.
So we all have picky eaters in our house, I know. So actually one of the most important things currently that everybody is dealing with is a child's immunity.
Yes.
Because everybody's super worried with whatever's happening around us, that how are we going to keep our children safe? What do we do to build their immunity? What is it that is going to help them, keep that going? Our body's defenses are basically bank on our immune system, right? So what steps do you think we should take to build that?
It's built on a lot of things. So while nutrition plays a huge role, there's no denying that it plays a huge role, but there are a lot of other factors that we can control that help build a child's immunity. And the number one thing I would say is sleep. If your child's body is tired, it's not going to be able to function at its best, and it's not going to be able to defend itself against any illnesses that it may come across. So that is very important. And then the second thing is hydration. If your child's body is not hydrated enough, it's not going to be able to flush out any toxins that there are, and that highly affects immunity. And then the next thing is, of course, nutrition, which is what your child is eating. So there's certain foods that are very important, and in this stage especially, what I like to say to parents is that focus on what you have. You don't have to go out there and go to that very that fancy supermarket and buy quinoa and kale because you think it's going to be very good for your child, because it's just not realistic in this scenario. So what I like to say is that use what you have at home. Give your child local desi food, because that's going to be in your kitchen, in your pantry anyway, and that will really help boost your child's immune system. So a couple of foods I just like to mention are number one, there's tulsi leaves. Generally the majority of Indian households have a tulsi plant. If not, they have access to dry tulsi leaves, and that is an antibiotic. So it really helps with immunity. And then the next thing is garlic, because garlic is nature's antibiotics. If you're eating Indian food, that's going to be in your food anyway. And then there's ginger and haldi, both of which are anti-inflammatories. So that's a no-brainer. I mean, that is also, again, in your food. And then there's black pepper. Now, black pepper, reduces inflammations, especially when your child already has a cold and cough. It's great to help them get rid of, sinus infections and all those things. And then there's one more thing I'd like to talk about, and that's honey. So honey has been proven to work better on curing a cough than cough syrup. It's that magical. But the problem with honey is that 70% of the honey out there in the market is adulterated. So while you think that your child is consuming all this honey and it's going to be good for them, it might just be sugar syrup. So you really need to make sure that the source of honey is genuine. Otherwise, it's not going to be effective.
As a parent, from what I've been told, is that honey should not be given to kids below a certain age.
Yes, that's right. You can't give honey to kids below 1. After 1, you're fine.
After 1, that's fine. And that's because of allergies? Is that what?
No, it causes botulism. So it's very, it could not be harmful, but it could be very fatal. So it's always, we always advise against it till your child is 1. But after 1, your child's immunity is developed enough to be able to accept it.
The next question that we have is that the kids are normally, they have huge energy levels, and they need to stay active, be running around, but with this lockdown, they're stuck at home. They're constantly eating. They don't know what to do with themselves. So, what is it that you advise that we should do? How do you think we should maintain that balance?
That's a very tough one because all these kids have this abundant energy and that you really want to use up, and then they're stuck at home, and which, and some people are blessed enough to have a great space and some people are not. So, what I mean, I can sort of share what I've been doing with my child, and, I sort of begin or end one of the two, the day with yoga time. So, it sort of helps calm him down. And then, we have family dance parties where we play something, on our TV, and we dance. And then, what else do? We do jumping jacks, and we, sort of try to, when I'm doing my workout, I try to involve him in it and try to get him to do as much as he can. And then, if you have a staircase in your house or in your building, we, make a competition out of running up and down the stairs, because at the end of the day, you really need to tire your child out. And of course, exercise is crucial for immunity. It plays a huge role. So you really need to try to make sure that your child is using up all that energy in a constructive outlet.
Okay, when the child falls ill, like even with picky eaters, the first thing that to go is their appetite. How do you suggest we handle, as a parent, what is it that we should concentrate on to kind of build their reserves?
This is something that a lot of parents are concerned about. So the first thing is accept that your child is not going to eat well. That's very important. And then the second thing I always say is that, offer hydrating foods, because that is the one thing, along with, of course, the medication, if they are or are not taking it, depending on, how you want to handle the illness, that is the one thing that is going to help your child get better sooner. So when I talk about hydrating foods, I mean, of course, there's water, but then, I mean, we've all been sick, and when we're sick, the last thing we want to do is drink tons and tons of water. So it's difficult to tell your child to do that as well, and if he's refusing water. So what you do is, you offer hydrating fruits. So there's what we call pani phal, and then apples, cucumber, watermelon, all these kind of fruits which are more hydrating. And then what you do is, you can offer juices. So generally we don't recommend juices to children because we consider it way too much in proportion to the nutrients in it. It's got way too much sugar. But when your child is sick, the risk of dehydration far outweighs the problems that a child could face by consuming too much sugar. So juices are a very good thing to offer when your child is sick. And the next thing I say is, just wait 24 hours. And after 24 hours, what you do is you start offering a normal balanced diet, what you would otherwise offer, but don't pressure. Because if we're sick and someone's pressuring us to eat, it's the most annoying thing for us, right? We don't want to eat, we're not feeling good. So you can't do that to your child. Don't pressure your child, but offer him a nutritious balanced meal the way you would otherwise after 24 hours. The first 24 hours is, focusing on hydration. Once that's corrected, you continue to focus on hydration, but at the same time, you offer this balanced meal. That's always what I recommend.
What, as per you, is a age where a child's immunity is actually well developed, that, that their own system kind of kicks in?
That's such a tough question because, it's like asking a doctor that, at what age is my child going to be 1 meter tall? So, how am I going to answer that question? It depends on so many things. Like I mentioned earlier, it depends on, the environment, your genetics, how well they're sleeping. Because, children develop, children's bodies, really grow and, function when they're sleeping. So if they're not sleeping well, their bodies aren't going to, develop that much in terms of immunity. It depends on how much exercise they're getting. There's so many factors. It depends on what they're eating. So it's very difficult to actually pinpoint a certain age. And I hate to do that because even if I suppose say an X number to you right now, the next thing that's going to happen is like, oh my God, but my child is X years old. He should be falling sick that much. And then suddenly you're so stressed. So you really can't give a...
So it basically depends totally on the parameters of what your conditions are. So height, weight, sleep, hydration, exercise. So they're all factors that you need to factor in when you talk about, and it depends from child to child.
Exactly, because there's this genetic factor as well, right?
Of course. My kids actually are totally, they love anything sweet, but I keep hearing no sugar, bad for you, all these studies. What is your take on that?
So this is actually, the the result of the diet culture that we grow up in, or that we have around us right now. So my belief very strongly is that sugar is not a toxic chemical that you need to run away from. To work against helping them develop a healthy relationship with food, because all foods, we have to tell our children that all foods are equal, and that every food does a different thing in your body. So you have to let your child enjoy it, and you have to sort of not make it a big deal. Like, take it off its pedestal. If we put sugar on a pedestal, it's going to be a big deal to you, it's going to be a big deal to your child, and they're just going to start binging on it, and that's not what we want.
So there are a lot of theories out there about sugar affecting a child's behavior. Do you think that sugar affects a child's behavior?
It's a very common belief, because this theory was proposed, I think in the 1920s, and it's a belief that's been going on for quite some while. But recently there was some research done on this, where they had a group of children, and they were given some food. Now the children didn't know what they were getting, whether they were getting sugar or they were not getting sugar. The parents didn't know either, and they took down the results, and there've been multiple experiments done on this, and the proof is that sugar does not affect your attention, or your child does not get something called a sugar rush. And I can say that there was the US National Library of Medicine and the National Institute of Health have all done this research, and this is the actual conclusion. So you don't need to worry about a sugar rush. It's not true. It's just a myth in our head.
But we all know that refined sugar isn't really something that's good for us. So do you suggest alternates that you consider healthy, that parents can include in their child's meal, whether it's to cook or to just add to different things?
Yeah. So when it comes to sugar, there's two things, right? There's one, you're openly giving your child a chocolate because that's something that you want him to know that you accept, and you want them to have a healthy relationship with it. And then there's something which you're cooking where your child doesn't know what's going in it. So in those cases, yes, you can easily replace the sugar with a lot of other things. You could use jaggery, which is actually quite healthy. It's great for immunity as well. You could use coconut sugar, date sugar. You could use honey, which is again a great way to add sweetness to your child's food. And then there's stevia, and then there's so many options out there. But yeah, I think these are the primary ones you could replace sugar with. But again, like I said, I do recommend you, if your child is obsessed with sugar, you need to give your child that chocolate or that candy or whatever your child wants, so that it doesn't develop into an obsession, and so that he ultimately grows out of it.
Kids don't like vegetables. I would hide vegetables in my son's food because he just didn't like the sight of vegetables. So is that okay, or do you think that's cheating them?
So the foundation of what I teach is something called the division of responsibility. I don't know if you've heard of it. So that is basically where you are providing the child with a healthy, balanced meal. And the child is choosing whether they want to eat it at all and how much they want to eat of it. So if you are providing your child with vegetables on a daily basis, I'm not saying you have to do the same, cooked broccoli every day or something, but you're changing it up. Ultimately, your child will accept vegetables. And this whole model is based on trust. So if you don't trust your child enough to, sneak in vegetables into your food, how is your child going to trust the food that you're serving? And that just sort of, goes into a downward spiral. So if your child isn't eating vegetables, there are certain ways to implement how to do that. There's a course I teach on that. But hiding is not the answer. Because, your child might eat it one day, he might eat it the second day, but the third day he finds out he's never touching that food again. And that's a disaster. So no, definitely not. Don't do that, please.
Do you have some recommendations, some healthy snack options that you could share with us?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to say about snacks is that there needs to be a good gap between your meal and your snack, because otherwise your child, like you said, will not eat the meal. And the second thing is that snacks shouldn't be too exciting, because if they're very exciting, your child's going to want to skip that meal to eat that snack. And that's not what we want, right? So the way we look at snacks is we look at them as mini meals. It could be something you would serve in a meal, but just a much smaller version of it, so that it's nutritious, because snacks are very important. People sort of use the word snack, and it sort of, has been distorted to mean, a treat, which it shouldn't be. Snacks are there to fill up nutritional gaps in your child's diet. That is the importance of snack. So, I always try to tell parents to include two food groups in your snack, not just one thing. So it shouldn't be just fruit. It could be fruit and yogurt. It could be, so the food groups that you should include, any two of these would be a grain, a dairy, a fruit, and a vegetable. You don't have to include all of them, but two. So the first thing I would say is dry fruits. For example, raisins, apricots, dates, any of those. And then there's fresh fruit, which is, bananas, apples, there's a whole list. And then you can include something like whole grain crackers, which isn't too filling. And with whole grain crackers, I always try to recommend, you add a dip to it just to boost its nutritious value. So, you could use avocado, smashed fruit, or smashed avocado, hummus, tahini, nut butters, any of those things with the cracker. And then yogurt. Yogurt is a great option to give as a snack because it's filling enough to be a snack, it's nutritious enough to be a snack, but it doesn't curb the hunger enough for your child to avoid the meal. And then, you have cereals, for example, oats, like a small portion of oats. You have your peanut butter, there's dal makhana, there's, paneer tikki, aloo tikki. You can give cheese, you can give, dark chocolate. Yes, dark chocolate is fine. And popcorn is a great snack. Because people always think popcorn is an unhealthy snack, but if it's prepared the right way, it's actually very, very nutritious. And then there's seed crackers, and there's a whole list. I think I've said enough.
Children who don't like eating, how does that affect their overall development?
Children who aren't eating, now generally if your child is not eating, he is likely to be underweight, right? That's what the first thing you would say. But a lot of times it's a problem in our head. Like, I'm not sure that unless the pediatrician is concerned, you need to be concerned that your child is underweight. Because, like I said, genetics and so many factors, some children just grow up to be lean, and that's fine. So unless the pediatrician is concerned about, the child's growth or the child's, height to weight to height ratio and all those things, I wouldn't recommend any parent to sort of self-evaluate and decide that, oh, my child is, not growing properly and I need to do a certain amount of things. But like, again, if your child is underweight and it's a cause for concern, what I generally say is try to include high calorie foods in your child's diet. A lot of children just need that because they're so active, or, they're so fussy about eating and they eat so little. They need that extra calorie boost in their diet. Now, I'm not saying like, start giving your child French fries. No, you don't want that extra weight to come from junk. You want it to come from, good omega-3s, omega-6s, like the healthy fats, right? So I could give you like, you can add a ton of ghee to your child's food. You could add avocado oil. You could add, olive oil, a lot of oils like nuts, butters. You could add, there may be a ton of high calorie foods that you could add to your child's food. It's just you need to make a conscious effort to do it. Nuts primarily are a great way to do that.
Great. Aditi, thank you so much. I'm sure everybody's gonna. I found it very informative, so I'm sure the rest will have something to say. If there's anything else, we will bring it across to you. So if anybody has questions, please do send it to Kidstop Press, and we will have Aditi address them. And thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Aditi. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys back soon.
Thank you.